Welcome back, everybody, to any listeners that started following us. We are Flocks and S Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dallas, wearing number 9 from Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. As your resident Ravens fan, I bring the flock.
I'm Brendan. I'm the second half of the podcast. I'm wearing 54 Seahawks, Bobby Wagner. As the 12 in the room, I bring the nest.
So we've got some pretty exciting news and things that we're going to talk about today. There was a bunch of breaking news since our last episode of quarterback contracts. So we're going to get into all of that. We are just going to kind of talk about contracts in general, some hot takes we kind of have. First, we're going to talk training camp. We're a little over a week and a half in, talking Ravens, Seahawks, some news that's come out of other training camps across the league. I know we got a little 49ers talk. Might talk a little Jets, Cowboys, things like that. And then, of course, as we are well into the Olympics, we are going to talk that. We're going to talk opening ceremony controversy, drama, all of it. We're just going to kind of get into all of it. So, Brendan, do you want to kick us off with quarterback contracts in the NFL?
So we'll start with the one that came first, and that was Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, signed a 4-year, $212 million contract. So he was the highest paid quarterback in the league for about 2 hours. And then Jordan Love, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, supplanted him as the top paid quarterback with a 3-year, $220 million contract, making him the highest paid quarterback per year in the NFL currently.
Yeah, definitely. So, I feel like for what I want to say, we kind of have to talk about it all in one go.
Yeah.
I am not shocked by any of this.
No.
For those of you that don't know, for our listeners, as you know, I watch on average in a day, or I listen to anywhere from maybe 9 to 13 different analysts, reporters, media members talk sports. It's what I listen to at work. It's what I listen to pretty much all day long. And the number one conversation that seems to be being had right now is, should a quarterback be the highest paid? Who deserves it? I would say there are only maybe 4 or 5 quarterbacks that deserve to be the top of the market, high paying. You've done something to prove you're worth 50 plus million a year.
Yeah.
I think Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
100%.
I would say Joe Burrow's in that category,
Mhm.
a Super Bowl appearance. Hurts is in that category, a Super Bowl appearance. Lamar's in that category, 2 MVPs.
Stafford with his Super Bowl
Stafford
win.
with a Super Bowl win. All of those guys belong in this conversation. The problem is, when you are going to buy something, as an average human being, if you are not talking even millions of dollars, you're just talking, I've got $100 in the account. When you are going to buy something, you take into account 4 things. And items are priced off of 4 things. Quality of a product. A Bugatti is going to be worth more than a Ferrari. Quantity, how many in the world are there? I had this all the other day. Oh, demand, how popular is an item? Like, if everybody wants something, sometimes that drives the price up. Sometimes it kind of drives the price down if you can make a lot of them. But demand for an item. And then fourth, and this is kind of the asterisk, is what you as a human being are willing to pay for something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I had millions of dollars, would not be willing to buy a Bugatti.
No. God, no.
I would buy a McLaren. I would maybe buy a Lamborghini. I probably would not own a Bugatti. It's just a preference thing. But every other position in the league is based off of quality and quantity.
Hmm.
We pay because you are elite at your position. We pay elite pass rushers top of the league, top of the market money.
Yeah.
We're seeing elite wide receivers make top of the league, top of the market money. Quarterback seems to be the only position we pay off of demand. There are 32 teams in the NFL. There are not 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, or at least
No.
people that should be starting quarterbacks in the
No.
NFL. And you can only have one per team. Now, you can have a backup, but you're not going to have Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow on your team.
No.
That's insane. So, you need one starting quarterback. And you can draft a guy or you can trade a guy or you can do all of these things, but you are not paying him because of what he's worth or what he's done for you. You're paying him because of the demand. I do not believe Tua Tagovailoa is worth $53.1 million a year. He's had injury problems. He can't play in the cold. Um, there are just critiques with him. I like the guy. I would like to see him have success. We talked about this last week. We want a competitive league. I don't want the
Hmm.
same teams winning all the time.
No.
And quarterbacks, it's easy to become invested in quarterbacks' kind of journey and to root for them.
Their career paths is very easy
Yeah,
to just like a quarterback over a time.
exactly. I do not believe Miami paid him $212 million because he's worth $212 million. He is worth that to say the Giants or to a team who needs a true starting quarterback.
And one that can you take for a while, not like a
Yeah.
stopgap
So I
kind of
think
guy.
unfortunately when we have this conversation, it is not about what are you worth. It's about what is someone else willing to pay you because they have a high demand for a quarterback. And you have the benefit of with veteran quarterbacks in the league, which he is,
Hmm.
you have 4 years of data.
Hmm.
Versus if you go to the draft, you don't really know. Tim Tebow was at one point a hot commodity coming out of the draft.
Yeah, one of the top quarterbacks in
It didn't
college
work
football.
out. Baker Mayfield was a number one pick in the draft. Now I like Baker, but he hasn't had quite the success you would expect of a number one draft pick.
You look at,
So
honestly, someone that's on the list for highest paid, Trevor Lawrence, was a
yeah,
top pick in the draft, is
draft
making 55 million a year, and I would say he's
has
not
not done anything to be worthy of that.
and has
Now,
not lived up to the number one overall pick.
no. Now you look at okay, what has he done for Jacksonville? Maybe there are some things in there from a city standpoint or from an
Yeah.
organizational standpoint. All of that's great. But as a quarterback in the NFL, you have not produced what the world has expected of you up to this point.
Mm.
You are not making this money because of what you've done, what I don't even necessarily think what you're capable of, but simply because if we don't pay you this money, someone else probably will, and we don't want to deal with the draft. That and
Hmm.
and that's the conversation surrounding quarterbacks. It should not be should he make this money? Probably not. Probably not.
No.
But about 5 quarterbacks could justifiably make this kind of money. But that's not why he was paid. So I'm gonna stay away from that of whether or not he should have been because that's the answer.
There's no, it's not whether he should have been. It's just
Yeah,
whether
this is
the team thinks it's that
if you
fourth
think
category of
Yeah.
are you willing to pay it? And if so, you're gonna pay it to keep him around.
So unless you're like, you know what, I think I can go and find. But then again, you see them do these things with like, I would have expected them to draft a quarterback this year, even a late round one, if they were like, oh, we don't really want to pay Tua, so maybe now we have to go find somebody.
But on to the draft, like talking about the draft. I was watching the most recent, not most recent, because I think there was one recently, but the fourth episode of Hard Knocks. The Giants were
Yeah.
talking about, and they go through it bit by bit, and they're like, over the last 10 years, the first round picks in the draft that are with the team that
Yeah.
drafted him, and only like 30%
Yeah.
of
It
those
was a
first
stupidly low
low
number.
number were with the team that drafted them, with
And
the original team that drafted them.
almost none of them, because they were just going through like first round quarterbacks.
There's
Almost
only,
none of, because
I think,
I thought Allen and Lamar were on the list.
Allen Lamar were. Mahomes,
Like,
I think, was one of the few. I think he might have been the only one to actually win a Super Bowl on that
yeah.
list.
So like when you just look at first round quarterbacks not having that kind of success, it's so I do. I'm not saying that Tua is not a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not good for Miami. I just think we need to adjust the conversation because should he make this kind of money? No, probably not. But then I think, you and I kind of talked about and we kicked around the idea of should a quarterback's contract be capped at a certain
Mm,
amount
yeah, I remember that.
where you kind of have like an NBA setup of
A
like,
super max or
yeah, if you've done certain things then you qualify for so much. But I think also like there's also the argument of maybe a quarterback contract should only make up a certain percentage of your cap because the quarterback contract has gotten so outrageously high
hmm
that even though cap is going up, it's all being allotted towards them. So then you run into the problems of like, who else can we pay and how do we pay
yeah.
other people? Now, I will say, I think the kind of benefit to that is you can't really have like a super team.
No, like you
That's
look
the
at,
benefit of having like a a cap in general. Like,
yeah.
yes, um, the 49ers are kind of in that category, but they're getting ready to have a problem.
hmm
Their team is not going to look the way it does when they have to pay Purdy.
No, or when they have to pay Purdy, if they pay Ayuk, if they
Yeah.
up
What I
Williams at all.
what I do think I'm surprised by with Tua's contract, it wasn't the amount, but it was how early it came. Because when you think about like other options teams have, they could have just picked up his fifth year option. They do have franchise tags. I think with someone that's had injury problems, like we saw this with Lamar, I understand wanting to wait a little bit. I understand hesitating, even if you're like, okay, maybe I wait, but the price goes up a little bit
hmm
of, okay, one healthy season isn't quite good enough.
Yeah, and I think the
Yeah.
same can be said for Jordan Love. Of
Yeah.
you've had one season of playing. We didn't. We saw the one season. You were really good for half of the games you played. The other half not so great. That playoff game against Dallas was really good. You guys won
Mhm.
that, but 1 year I don't think can justify
No.
getting a contract of this magnitude. Now, at the same time, if you're Green Bay, you're kind of sitting there like, we are known for developing quarterbacks. We are known for producing high level quarterbacks over and over and over again. They've had three quarterbacks for the past like 40 years or whatever the
Yeah.
hell it is. So, as Green Bay, you're kind of sitting there going, if we know we can develop quarterbacks, let's just give them the money now, maybe save a little bit on future. Like if you wait a year, if you like tag him or pick up his fifth
Mhm.
year, you wait a year, who knows what the quarterback contract market will look like. It could jump up to
Now,
60 for all we know.
I do think from it's kind of weird because I was thinking about it today, and I was like, I think it's crazy that you paid Love off of 1 year of starting. Like you said, 8 solid games. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I think this was actually the best move for them. I
Hmm.
was a little shocked at the amount, but if they front load his contract,
Yeah.
then in 3 years, when all of your really young team, because they are very young, their whole team's going to be needing new contracts pretty much at once.
Yeah.
So now you won't quite be in the hole
Later.
that maybe the 49ers are looking at right now,
Hmm.
where a quarterback contract could cripple that team. If you front load it, get everybody else re signed in like 3 years, like from their financial perspective, I absolutely get it. I am shocked that he was able to get top of the market for that when,
Yeah.
again, we're still trying to figure out who he is as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Hmm.
I'm not saying he played great, and I think he's ascending, but this could also be his ceiling. We don't know.
Yeah.
So I like for me as a GM, I don't know that I would have cut either of these checks this week. I do think because I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later when we get into training camp. The one thing I will say with Tua and his injuries because they've been concussions, I think the new guardian cap rule
Might
is
benefit.
going to make that very interesting
Hmm.
because he's not super mobile, he's not super athletic. If he's used to wearing it, I would kind of think he'd be one to wear that guardian cap in game just to kind of be like, yeah, you're paying me $53 million. I got to stay healthy.
Hmm.
And the other thing, I think with Tua, Green Bay is not paying anybody else right now. Miami is paying
Yeah,
some people.
Miami is.
And Tyreek is watching this wide receiver market going cha-ching, and
Yeah.
he's going to expect pay raise in the next year. So, I think that's why he came in a little under than some of the others. I do also think it's interesting that like both he and Jordan Love only got 4-year deals. Um, it gives them a little bit more negotiating power a little sooner. It also means the team can move off a little sooner.
Yeah.
So I am a little surprised. Like I find that interesting. Um,
We'll see what
but at the end of the
comes of
day,
that.
I'm happy for those guys. I'm glad they got their money.
Hmm.
Um, I'm never gonna say, hey, don't get paid, don't fight for every dollar you're worth. That's what an agent's for. I'm not saying, but again, I don't think teams pay you based off of for quarterbacks, they're not paid based off of what they produce or what they can produce. They're paid based off of the demand for a quarterback in the NFL.
Hmm.
And like you said, Hard Knocks prove that first round quarterbacks,
That
they
can
don't
have
always
success.
produce.
Yeah.
So, and Miami's looking for its first playoff win in like 14 years.
Hmm.
If you think Tua can get you that, pay the man. So yeah, I am happy for him and Love. I was a little shocked, I guess, at the speediness of their
Yeah.
contracts.
Getting
But
that
money
done.
wise, you weren't you can't come in under. This is what the league is going to pay. If Miami, you don't want to pay that, you're going to lose him
Hmm. And then
because someone else will.
just since we're on the quarterback conversation, I kind of want to talk about the quarterbacks that are on this top
Yeah, do it.
list. It's a weird list. We'll have a graphic up.
It's a,
Um, because the three highest paid are all making 55 million a year, and it's Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow are all the three highest paid, making 55 million a year APY. I feel like only Joe Burrow of those three deserves or is being paid off of quality.
Yeah.
Where you look at Lawrence and his fumbling issues and his turnover issues. Like the Jaguars put out a thing on their Instagram, and the NFL even picked it up, I think, where the Jaguars were doing like a fumbling drill where you kind of like rolled on a mat and a coach would like take one of the sticks and like poke at the ball.
Yeah.
Every Jaguar got through the drill without fumbling. Trevor Lawrence gets
Except
up
Lawrence.
and immediately hits the mat, ball pops out. No, not touched, not anything, ball pops out. He has an issue with fumbling. He has an issue with
Mhm.
turnovers. He's as bad as Josh Allen. And me and you give Josh Allen a lot of criticism
A
for his
flack.
and I would argue Trevor Lawrence is almost worse. And the reason I'm arguing
Yeah.
that is Allen's turnovers come from him being too aggressive, too wanting, having no fear. We
Trying to
talk about,
force the ball on
yeah,
the field.
we've talked like the best quarterbacks all do something that no one else does really well. Joe Burrow manages a game, reads a game, does every little thing right in a game. That what
Yeah.
makes him great. Lamar Jackson is one of the fastest, hardest to tackle quarterbacks the league's ever seen.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Mahomes does the wackiest shit on the planet. Will be no look, throw the ball left-handed, find his guy. It works. Will throw from an angle that is
It
impossible and it gets to the
doesn't even seem.
target. Like
Yeah.
these guys that just Josh
And then
Allen's
Allen's it's his complete lack of fear.
he will
Like he
run
will.
at a 250-pound linebacker and go, I'm running through you, bring it on. Or he'll
Yeah.
throw a ball into double coverage, triple coverage, and be like, I have faith in my receiver. He'll go up and get it. It gets him in trouble sometimes, but at the same time, I think that's what makes Allen such a great quarterback in a way.
Yeah.
Of
Because when it succeeds, it's brilliant.
yeah,
But when it fails, you're like, add another interception to
yeah.
to the list.
Whereas Lawrence's turnover issues just come from like silly mistakes, stupid,
Yeah.
like not holding onto the ball, underthrowing a pass, overthrowing, like just making mistakes that are avoidable and aren't really like you trying to better your team for it.
Yeah.
And then we
It's
talked
it's
about
all little shit. It's
we
the
t-
mechanics. It's
yeah, we talked about Love and his contract being a little high for too soon. Again, we talked about it. We are already with it. The next three are Tua making 53.1, Jared Goff making 53, and then Justin Herbert making 52.5. I would argue none of those deserve to be in the top 6. Goff is the only one I could hear an argument for because he's made it to the NFC Championship, because he's done.
Goff. I am less of those 3. Goff is the one I am the least bothered by.
Because, yeah, he's made it to the Super Bowl. He's made the NFC Championship with the
Yeah.
Lions now. He's proven that he can get it done. So paying him higher end makes sense. Herbert is one. I just, it's
He,
unfortunate. He's had a lot of coaching issues, a lot of
yeah. Herbert was very much paid
coordinators.
off of what we think he can become. If he is given the right coach and the right coordinator.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the next 2 years for Herbert are very important.
And I've brought this take up with
This
you.
year, I can give a little leeway, right? New systems,
Yep.
new wide receivers, new head coach, and it's all going to look very different. Hardballs tend to operate within a specific sphere type of football, and
And
that's not what Herbert's used to.
I've made the I had a take and I wasn't planning on doing it on here, but fuck
Oh,
it.
share it.
It's an
Share
interesting
it.
it's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers should have traded Herbert to the Vikings during draft day.
Mhm.
Um, One, because I think it would be awesome as a football fan. I think Kevin O'Connell with Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson and that offense would just be
So scary.
fucking awesome. But
they
then,
skyrocket up the NFC rankings if
oh yeah,
that's
oh god, it would be just a dream to watch that team. And my other thing is, if you watch Herbert, Herbert is a gun it guy. He can throw the
mhm,
ball a mile with no effort at all. You're putting him in a team with Greg Roman, who is known for running the ball a lot. He was the
yeah,
Ravens coordinator. They ran the ball a lot, did
a
not
lot.
pass a ton. One of your biggest complaints with that team.
Mhm,
You're putting a quarterback that loves to air it out in an offense not designed to air it out. The other thing I was saying is you trade Herbert to the Vikings and then you draft McCarthy.
yeah,
Because we all know Jim loves McCarthy. This gives Jim his quarterback he's wants, a quarterback that can play that system really well, and a quarterback that you can develop and just build around in LA. It was never going to happen. I realize that. But as a football fan and as someone that like wants to see teams get the fit at quarterback they need, I think that
mhm.
would have been a really fun fit.
That would have been but yeah, that's why I do, and that's why I give Herbert I don't need to see phenomenal play this year.
Hmm.
The following year, we need to see
Him progress and him to finally
yeah,
take
and
that
genuinely
step.
take that step and be like, "Okay, this is why I was paid. This is why I'm considered a top quarterback when nothing about my stats, our records, anything has shown that." Because now he's in the best position to succeed. Now maybe it could be a little better, like we said, if he'd gone to Minnesota. Yes, I think you're looking at an MVP right there when you're looking at passing yards and touchdowns and all
Yeah.
all that stuff. Him and Jefferson, that'd be crazy.
And then,
But you've got to produce.
yeah. Um, and then just to continue the finish out the top 10, you have Lamar Jackson making 52 million, Jalen Hurts making 51 million, Kyler Murray making 46.1, and then Deshaun Watson making 46. The first two names fit the top 10 without a doubt. Lamar being a two-time MVP, changing the game. Yes, we would like him to win a Super Bowl. I'm with
Yeah,
you on that. I don't want Mahomes to win again. So if it's not the Seahawks, I'd pretty much take anyone other than the Cowboys because,
yeah. We'd take a couple teams.
yeah,
But it's Lamar. Honestly, as weird as this is to say in sports, I just feel like it's Lamar's turn. It's the amount of
yeah.
hate, the amount of doubt. It's your turn. You got to go get one, bro. Yeah, I need it. I cannot spend another season, an off season, hearing the way people talk about you. Please go get a Super Bowl.
Um, and then Jalen Hurts been to the Super Bowl again. Kind of makes sense, proven that he can kind of lead. But he's also won. I think that Super Bowl trip was a kind of fluke in a way.
I made this comment that I think Hurts is kind of what held up some of these other contracts. That he went to the Super Bowl and he got paid according to, hey, I've been to a Super Bowl. I'm an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
There have been turnover at coaches and coordinators, and all of that's important. All of that is relevant. If I'm gonna add context to Lamar's playoff games, I have to give it to others as well.
Yeah.
However, Hertz's other 3 seasons in the league were not great and have not been great. So you made the one really great run with a pretty easy schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the NFC Championship game, and
Brock Purdy tears his elbow.
49ers are literally out of quarterbacks. They're out.
Yeah.
They got down to their third stringer,
Who also got hurt.
and yeah,
Christian
and
McCaffrey
then
played quarterback during that game for a solid stretch.
everyone else in the league that could play quarterback, the last 2 years the most amount of quarterbacks I think ever have played
Yeah.
because of the amount of injuries. Like, there was no one to go out and get.
No.
So when he got hurt there, you kind of walked into the Super Bowl. And then the Super Bowl came, and yes, you were keeping up. And then the fourth quarter came, and they just looked gassed.
And
They were like, my God, how is the season not over yet?
I will say we have opinions on the holding call in that game.
I
I,
was, I mean, I'm with you, Eagles fans. I'm with you. That's what I'll say.
it was holding. It was holding,
It was.
but the argument I
He
have,
hadn't been calling it all game.
I think during the game they had called maybe two holdings the whole game.
Like,
No calls were happening all over the place for both teams. I think in that moment the refs kind of sat there and decided the game for something that wasn't for something that wasn't worth deciding the game over with that holding call that I just don't think should have been. For anyone wondering, Dallas's dog had just made an appearance in the background.
you're gonna be what makes us YouTube famous. It's not gonna be what we're talking about, by the way. It's gonna be the 2 second little clip of you and the back of your head. It's not
Yeah.
even that'll be the next comments we get. Show us more of the dog, shut up.
uh
So I agree with the holding call. I wouldn't have called it. I think it's and then you hear quarterbacks later go on and yell about how refs are impacting the game and how they should just stay out of it and how it's really messed up when a ref makes a call that clearly changes the course of a game. I'd just
yeah.
like us to remember that sometimes they make those calls that help you.
Yeah, who said that? I wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't remember.
And then
Uh,
Kyler Murray, because you brought up the
yeah,
bottom two.
Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson contract was crazy. That was crazy. We
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 have
were confused.
opinions. We have
Um, I'm not going to get into all of it.
no.
Whatever you may think of the situation or whatever you may think of him or the Browns organization because of it, that's a personal opinion. Um, I have my own. I'm not really going to get into that. The contract itself, though, was insane.
Yeah,
A
it
fully guaranteed contract
that
is outrageous.
for someone that you
Um,
weren't sure was gonna play was
yeah,
just like it just
was ever going to play again.
it
And then when you look at what he's done,
yeah
he was another one. He was paid off of what we think he can be because he did really well
in
with the
Houston.
Texans. But then you were like, okay, well, we're a better team. Maybe we think we're a better organization. This is what it'll do for us. We've been hurt. Our accuracy has dropped
Struggled.
dramatically. Like
It
he
it
has not produced in anywhere near the level they wanted or needed him to based off a fully guaranteed contract.
it
Even Patrick Mahomes' contract is not fully
yeah,
guaranteed.
it shows a lot that that team I feel like performed better with an old as shit Joe
Yeah,
Flacco who, let's be honest, even in his last year with the Ravens, didn't have the same magic that Flacco had. He
no,
was not good with the Broncos. He was not good with the Jets. I think that was the only places he went after the Ravens,
yeah.
and then he went to
Now
the
he's
Browns.
Colts.
Yeah, now he's with the
Now he's
Colts. But a old Joe Flacco that just got off his couch came in,
yeah.
and I felt played better
Then
than
Watson has his entire time in Cleveland.
yeah, which means that $46 million contract is or the $46 million per year contract is just
You're just flushing that money away. It's
yeah
just like, and and what are you gonna do in a year when he's up for another one? What's the plan there, bro?
like the only thing that I think makes this Deshaun Watson contract kind of mute is the Russell Wilson contract was the one immediately following it after his
Yeah,
trade to the Broncos, and that contract was worse purely because Russell Wilson's no longer with the Broncos. They bought out his contract because that's
yeah.
how bad he was with the Broncos. Now I'm not going to say a lot of that's on Wilson. Nathaniel Hackett was not a good head coach.
It's not fully on Wilson,
His
but there is.
A lot of it is. I think a lot of it though was Seattle. I think when he was with Seattle, I think Seattle did a really good job, and the defense carried him a lot in Seattle. So he
Yeah,
was winning. So when you saw the quirkiness, you saw his like weird behavior because they were winning,
able to overlook it.
people would overlook it and be like, well, maybe this is his keys to success. Maybe this is just what it takes. And then he comes to Denver and they're losing, and his quirkiness is just making
It's,
it worse because it's
yeah, it
just
seems it's cringy.
clearly dividing that locker room.
Yeah,
Clearly dividing that locker room. So the only thing that makes the Deshaun Watson contract even mildly not the worst contract we've seen in years is that
was
Russell
because
Wilson.
Russell immediately,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then
Kyler. I, I mean, you're not paying anybody else, I guess.
yeah,
So
and he's another one. You're paying him for what you think he can be,
yeah,
and he's one. If he puts it all together, if he does what we think he can do, he might be worth that $46
especially
million.
now with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, with that new
Like,
with that new offense, with that new coach, because Kingsbury, I just didn't think worked.
no, him and I don't even think Kingsbury can't work, but him and Kyler just.
Just didn't mesh and
You know,
just didn't work.
we've talked about on here the conversation or the connection between your quarterback and your head coach has to be strong.
Yeah,
And I don't think they ever had that.
I don't think so.
I
And
think
then
they were always at odds.
just to quickly round out the last six, because this was a top 16 list we have in front of us, is Patrick Mahomes making 45, Kirk Cousins making 45, Josh Allen making 43, Daniel Jones making 40, Dak Prescott making 40, and Matthew Stafford making 40. Now, Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, is outside of the top 10. Part of
Mhm.
this is because of when he signed his contract. He signed a 10-year contract 4 years ago, somewhere in there. Four. Signed his contract 4 years ago before the QB market really skyrocketed into what it's become now. But you still think about it. Tom Brady was never the highest paid.
Yeah.
A lot of the quarterbacks that had the most success were not the highest paid quarterbacks in the league at the time they were playing. Tom Brady's the best example. Tom Brady was never the highest paid quarterback in the league when he was playing, and he has 7 rings, all the appearances in the world, because he was willing to take that to have a better team. I think Mahomes is kind of on the same track in terms of
Yeah.
because of
I have a thing I have a thing on that actually.
shoot, fire away.
Um so what's interesting, this list is based off of what their contract is, therefore this is what they should make every year.
Yeah,
This is not what Patrick Mahomes actually makes every year.
no,
Because it was a 10-year deal, his contract gets reworked almost every year
mm-hmm.
to make sure he's getting the most amount of money with
That
their
year,
cap space. So that so he is I think I saw a thing, I'll see if I can find it again and we'll put it up as a graphic. But it's like over the last 4 years, Patrick Mahomes has made the most money of a quarterback.
mm-hmm.
And he is set the way it's currently structured to make the most money over the next 4 years as well.
Oh, okay.
But his overall, like, yes, his overall
APY,
average by year is lower. He actually is and ends up being like the highest paid over a period of time because it's so long. They constantly restructure it to
yeah,
make sure he's making a lot of money. The one that ticks me off, honestly, when it comes to the Chiefs, is Travis Kelsey. He's making $14 million a year. He is the highest paid tight end in the NFL.
mm-hmm.
But if Justin Jefferson's worth 30 million,
Travis Kelsey's worth
Travis
like
Kelsey's worth probably 40.
yeah. I'm not. I. That's
So
insane.
you're not like the Chiefs have never like they don't pay a high wide receiver room. It's why they didn't keep Tyreek. But for Kelsey to be making so little,
Makes
he's the one that like I'd be seeing this wide receiver market go up and going,
can I be
I
paid
need
like
to
a
be
wide
on that
receiver?
list
Yeah, I need to be listed
because
as a
I
wide
block,
receiver
I catch, I run, I do all of these things.
with
You need to pay me like
without me. Mahomes' wide receiver room
yeah.
turns to dust. It is Thanos snapped
So
into oblivion.
and I do think the tight ends as a whole need Travis Kelsey to fight for wide receiver money
Yeah,
because
there are a few that I feel like deserve a
yeah,
more
uh,
wide receiver like contract. Maybe not
closer,
like Mark
but
Andrews probably deserves 25 to 30 million.
within that range. Um,
Hawkinson deserves in that range.
I
There,
think Goddard
yeah, there are
is
definitely
within
tight
that
ends.
range. So yeah, so Patrick Mahomes' money does get reworked, but really, when you're looking talking Chiefs contracts, the one that ticks me off is Travis Kelsey's.
That's insane. And then
Kirk Cousins should write a book
on how to make money in the NFL, yeah, he
on how to be. Do not win in primetime, and I can't win a playoff game to save my life. But I've made a crap ton of money.
but I know how to get that
Yeah,
guaranteed
I
money.
know how to get that money. Because we talked about it this offseason, because I thought it was going to be interesting in Minnesota, and then he went to Atlanta, which should definitely be a chapter in the book.
Mhm.
He always has his like the best season of his career during a contract year. It's like his body knows, got to get that money.
He's like, I just relax the rest of the time.
Yeah, like
Contract year, here we go.
3 out of 4 years, he's like, it's cool. I'm just playing quarterback. That fourth year, he's like, boom.
Just good enough to earn a contract
Yeah.
that's high and
When he retires, I think as of right now, nobody in the NFL or NFL history has made as much money as Kirk Cousins.
guaranteed. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's which is
it's
crazy.
crazy.
And then to round out the list, Josh Allen kind of makes sense. Again, one of your like more elite quarterbacks.
I
You'd
think
like
he
to,
should be on the higher end, but when you think about when he signed his contract, he was at the time he was
one,
on a higher end.
yeah, and being in the top half of the NFL is still fine. Daniel
Yeah,
Jones belongs
that
nowhere
was
near
that
the
was
top end
crazy. That was crazy.
when you look at like who actually would be considered like the top half of the quarterbacks in the league. Daniel Jones.
Especially when as an organization you thought you had to make a choice.
Hmm.
You know, when we talk hard knocks, eventually you had to make a choice between Jones and Saquon Barkley. How you pick Jones, I have no idea. Like, even if you were like, he needs a new deal, way less, way less.
He should be
And
making
I
like
definitely wouldn't have given him 3 years,
no. I think the
but he's
perfect
one I would have used a 5th year option. I would have franchise tagged and franchise tag like I'd have franchise tagged him and given Saquon the bag.
yeah, and if you had to give him a contract, I think Geno Smith's contract is one of the best like middle class quarterback contracts in the league.
Yeah,
If you just break it down, he's making 30 something million a year. Have to actually look it up. It's not in front of us. He's making 30 something million a year. That's like middle of the road quarterback contracts. But he's making that with 2 years and then a third year that's kind of just there. That if you
yeah.
need to get rid of him after that third year, there's like very little guaranteed money. There's not a whole lot of dead cap. So you're really only locked in for 2 seasons. At
And then if you decide to rework him and give him a raise,
like if he
fine,
yeah,
but
and
then you've seen it out of him.
if he plays well for those 2 seasons, give him a raise, give him do work something out here. But giving him
I'm even more okay with Baker Mayfield's contract.
Yeah, that's another really good middle of the road,
at like 130 million
making
over
30,
3 years.
making like
Yeah, he's making like 30 million over 3 years. So it's actually more like 100 million. Like 33 million a year for 3 years.
he's making just a little bit more than Geno Smith, which makes sense. He's younger.
Like that should have been Daniel Jones' contract. 40 million a year. That's crazy. That's I don't even know what we're doing here.
No, and then Prescott, we have
He's
opinions,
looking for a new contract.
which we think
Uh,
if he gets a new contract, no matter where he gets it, he's looking at least 55. I would not
55
I
to
would
60.
I would not be surprised if he sets a new high in the QB market, getting
Yeah.
over
Because that
55.
goes back to the demand. When you look at the teams coming out of this next season who are at minimum we're pretty confident are going to need a quarterback and then a couple that might sneak in there. Yeah, they're going
He
to pay him that because that's how desperate the NFL is for a starting quarterback
and
that can win 12 games.
here's the thing, more teams are going to come. So a team that really stands out to me as a team that might shock people for Dak Prescott after the season, like you obviously have the Saints with Carr if you can get rid of that contract. You
Mhm.
have if Daniel Jones isn't good this year, you have the Giants might look to get rid of that. I think a team that's an interesting one would be the Carolina Panthers
Yeah.
because you have Bryce Young for another 3 years because you have the 2 years and then a fifth year option. If you sign Prescott to a 3 year deal, he's playing until he's like 34 with you, 35. At that point, Bryce Young sat. You can pull the Jordan Love technique of let's sit him behind a strong veteran quarterback. Let's get some wins. Let's build his let's actually
Yeah.
develop him.
Let him sit behind somebody that he can learn from.
And they're not paying anybody on that team.
No.
Not a soul is getting paid on that team. So if I'm
Clowney.
Dallas, even he's not getting like
I'm
he's
just
getting paid, but he's not getting
he's
paid.
up there.
Yeah, like it's
At least
sad.
on that roster.
It's sad that that's one of the highest paid people on that roster.
Yeah.
A aging Jadeveon Clowney, who did just have the best season of his career, but did it with Mike McDonald and the Ravens, who Mike McDonald is great at getting the best out of players. That is
And
what
they
his
produce elite defenses.
yeah.
So
So
what you're
if
gonna do in Carolina.
I'm the Cowboys, I'm terrified that a team like Carolina or a team like the Giants or the Saints or one of these other teams that might need a quarterback. I would really be afraid of Carolina. I think that makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah.
Carolina
Well,
not
and
spending a whole
then
ton of cap. If Bryce Young doesn't work, you give him a couple seasons as a backup
yeah, and then try again.
and see if that works. And if that doesn't, you just draft one after Prescott leaves.
And then that was news a couple days ago. Was the Cowboys have offered Dak a new contract.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's pretty intended on hitting that market and seeing what's out there for him. I'm not saying he's necessarily looking to leave Dallas, but I think he wants to hit that open market and see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, we'll have to see because again, if he hits that open market, if I'm Dallas,
There are teams I'm
it's
afraid of.
scary
Yeah.
because I don't know if you're going to be able to offer him what a Carolina can or what I won't say the Saints because I think the Saints, if they get rid of
The
Carr, they'll
Saints
have some dead
and the
money.
Giants are going to have some dead money,
So we'll see if
but
they can offer, but
Carolina's not
like
going to have that.
there are teams that just won't have that dead money that a quarterback is useful for them.
Yeah,
And then the last person on the list, rounding out the top 16,
Stafford.
is Stafford.
I think he should be within the top 10. He's
You
just won a
know,
Super Bowl.
he won a Super Bowl. He signed that contract a little bit ago, but he's probably one of the best like budget
Yeah.
like that team. Now I will say that team's getting worse. Obviously, when you have Aaron Donald retire, which as a Seahawk fan, I celebrated. As a football fan, I shed a tear. I that was having
I
him
kind of
retire.
think hot take.
Okay,
Hot take.
hot take incoming.
I think there's potential their defense will be better with Donald gone. Let me with Donald there, because I totally see your face. I, I think stats wise and potentially sacks wise, because now you have two younger guys.
Okay.
The O lines are going to kind of underestimate. You're not double teaming one person who makes up the majority of your.
Pass rush your team, yeah.
Yeah. So now that he's gone, you kind of open up that D line a little bit.
I'd
So I
understand
think there is a chance that statistically
they could look better.
their defense might look better. Not because you're getting someone better than Aaron Donald. You're not.
No.
But Donald, in the last couple years, he has a really hard time getting home because almost every O line double and triple teams him.
But that would
You're
be
not gonna have that.
see, here's I I would understand the argument more if it wasn't an Aaron Donald-esque player. You know what I mean? If it was like a solid, like top end, Aaron Donald's probably the best defensive player of our lifetime, of our
Oh,
generation. And
absolutely.
it's probably not that close. But so I think for him to replace him, because even if he wasn't getting home, just his presence alone, I think
Yeah.
was enough. Like, okay, one of the best moments of the season, I feel like last year, in terms of just comedy, was Aaron Donald when unblocked against the Seahawks. And Geno Smith's reaction, they picked it up on mic, was, "Oh my god!" As he
Yeah.
sees Aaron Donald, it's just his presence as a player. You have to double him every play. You have to put guys
And
on him every play, and
I
that
do not
opens
disagree with
people
that.
up.
I very much think that his impact or his absence will be felt. I just think there's potential statistically
That it
you'll
frees
see
up
that
more
line do better. But I don't think
as a
when you look at the overall quality of game being played and the intensity of a defense, no, it absolutely went down. I just think you could see it statistically be like, it got better. It didn't, but
okay.
that's
It is a hot take. It's not the hottest take we've had,
and then I
but
will say, Matthew Stafford,
yeah,
he just reworked his contract
yeah,
actually,
he's
to get some more guaranteed money for the next, I think, 2 years.
yeah.
They haven't released the numbers, but yeah, he did get a little bit more guaranteed just to kind of help him out. I think you're probably looking at maybe 3 more years of Stafford,
Yeah, probably.
2 to 3.
Yeah, I can't see him playing much. I honestly thought he might have retired sooner, but if he keeps playing like he did
I
last
kind of
year,
thought after that,
year
after
of
the
injury,
win,
and that year of
yeah,
injuries, I thought he was done.
like I
Came
was
back,
like, maybe not.
played really well.
They
So I
had a
guess
really great season last season. A lot of people underestimated them. We'll see what they do this year. I do think they're a playoff team this year.
yeah,
So,
we'll definitely have to. I will obviously be keeping an eye on them because they're in my division.
yeah.
So I'm glad Donald retired, but we'll see. In my division, they're a team that I could honestly see kind of being there. Like if Seattle finishes third behind the 49ers and the Rams, I won't be surprised. Like I just
Yeah.
won't.
No, that's fair. New coach, new coordinators, new systems. It may take a minute to get going.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I think they're definitely an interesting team this year. Yeah, I think Stafford's maybe a little low, but I think appropriately paid.
Yeah.
I think just some of these it's just outrageously high. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's just the QB market.
Trevor Lawrence is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. That's I mean, that's just the world we live in right now. It's just
Mm-hmm. Well,
Jordan Love, 8 good games,
yeah.
16 starts, and
We're
alrighty, well, talk training camp, and we're gonna try and do so kind of quickly.
yeah,
Because we do want to get to Olympics talk at some point.
yeah, and we're going on.
Yeah, before we get into Ravens Seahawks, there are two things I want, or at least one thing I want to mention. The other I'll do during Ravens. The Vikings, one of their draft picks. Um,
A few years back, yes.
I thought he was no, he
Nope.
was a this year.
He
Oh,
he's been on the team for a little bit.
gotcha. So a Vikings team member, Kyrie Jackson, tragically died in a car accident a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we feel for Minnesota. We mourn with Minnesota. Mourn
Mm-hmm.
with that family. Our sympathies. I can't imagine. I
No.
can't imagine. Um, Warner number 31. Minnesota is putting the number 31 decals on all of their helmets
Mm-hmm.
this season, and it is considered an unattainable number. Um, there's another term for it. I'm not going to use it. I think that would be in poor taste. Um, no one is going to wear 31 this year to kind of honor him and respect his legacy and what he's leaving behind. And um, so it's just really, it's tragic and it's terrible, but it is great to see the way these organizations celebrate these players and try and support their communities and support these families. A locker room is made of 53 guys, and you may not know that all of them very well, but they're a family. And to remember him and to celebrate him the way they are, I think is really beautiful and it's really well done. And I think it's very classy. I
Mm-hmm.
think there have been, you
Certain
know,
teams
situations
and
and
situations. Yeah.
organizations that have not handled these situations appropriately and they have not honored the memory the way they should have or could
Mm-hmm.
have. So to see the way Minnesota is doing it now, I have an extreme respect
Back.
for.
Yep.
Um, Even though the Vikings aren't really my team, I didn't know Kyrie as a
Mm-mm.
player very well because I don't follow Minnesota as closely. But to see the organization rally this way is impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives. I think it's an appropriate way to pay homage.
Mm-hmm. And then just to add a couple things, um, Kevin O'Connell and some of the coaching staff were at his funeral or wake. I can't remember which one it was. So they talked at it as well. I think that's a huge,
Yeah,
classy move. Leaving training camp, one of the most stressful times of the year for a head coach for a team to be at a teammate at a
yeah,
person's wake that you were close to, I think is very classy. And then the Vikings did confirm they will be paying the rest of his contract to the remainder of his
yes.
family. All of his guarantee, they will be paying all of the money, not just the guarantees he had left, but the whole contract
The
he
full
signed.
amount of the contract.
Yeah, so they will be
Mhm.
paying all of that to the family, which I think is one of the
That's
classiest things they've done.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, as
and
to see an organization just do that
yeah, and
because they do not have to. That is not part of a contract stipulation.
no,
The league does not hold them to that. So as an organization to come out and be like, we can't fix it. You can't make
no,
that better.
no amount of money is going to make this better.
But in any way they can help, they do.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I did see that. Yeah, I think the way they've handled this shows the utmost class.
Hmm.
And I think if you're a Vikings fan or if you're a football fan, it puts a notch
Of respect on
towards
the
Minnesota.
Vikings. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah.
Sorry to get a little bit somber for
Yeah.
this portion, but it's hard to talk about a sad
It
moment?
I don't think you it's not a jovial conversation, it's
No.
not. But we are, as football fans, because that's how you and I identify, is
Yeah.
yes, I'm a Ravens fan, yes, you're a Seahawks fan, but we are just a fan of the sport. To see organizations handle these moments with respect,
Mhm.
I I can't think of anything better. It's
It's honestly
because
it's
yeah,
kind.
there have been situations where they handled it terribly, and you and I actively kind of avoid those teams.
We will not name names.
Yeah,
There
I'm
was
not gonna
one
throw anybody out there, but
there's been some very obvious ones that happened
it
recently.
happened.
Um,
Um, so yeah, we are gonna stay a little somber and then get back into the jovial aspects, hopefully. Ravens training camp last Wednesday, they had several people missing for Jacoby Jones's funeral,
mhm,
who was a wide receiver for the Ravens. He was the receiver for the Mile High Miracle when
mhm.
Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl, and he was the reason we don't like Mike Tomlin. Uh, so a lot of them were missing for his funeral. They are not putting 41 on their helmets. They were all given bandanas and bracelets, and the entire camp was dedicated to Jacoby Jones that day. With many people missing. Tucker was missing. I believe Harbaugh made an appearance. Joe Flacco was missing from Colts training camp to be there. Um, it was another. He hasn't been on the team for a long time, but the impact of that loss was felt.
Mhm.
Um,
And
Lamar spoke. Jacoby Jones was one of the first people that reached out to him when he was drafted. Um, you know, they're they showed it during one of their camps. They have days where former players come down and hang out and they bring their families. And Jacoby Jones was always a part of that, and he was always kind of a staple in this organization while he played and even after he played. And he's another one, his loss is felt. As a Ravens fan, I felt it. When they posted it, I cried. I was not prepared for that. Um, but to see Baltimore respond in an appropriate fashion, in a respectful fashion, and in a way that pays homage, not just a "this happened, we're sad, we move on." They are aware of this impact and they let it be an impact. They go, "Okay, we have practice today, but we all kind of have something else on our mind."
mhm,
And we recognize that, and we're not going to try and shove it down. We're going to embrace it. And we're going to come out here and, Harbaugh said it. We honor him by playing the game he loved and by doing the best we can each day, each rep, each moment. And you see it, and saw it that day. So I do. It's a big part of why I'm a Ravens fan. I think the way they handle situations, the way as an organization they just conduct themselves, I have a lot of respect for, and it showed this past week.
mhm.
Staying in Ravens training camp. Lamar did finally make it to practice. I know he was sick for a good portion of it. Um, he just really does not have a great immune system. I don't know
No.
what's up. A reporter asked him. It was actually kind of a sweet moment. I was like, "Is there something chronic going on? Is there something?" And he said, "No, I just um seems to be a situation he goes through in Baltimore." He's like, "I didn't have this problem at Louisville. I don't have this problem when I'm in Florida. It's a Baltimore thing." But he did finally make it to practice. The offense clearly did better without him. Um, he is kind of making some jokes. He's thrown a couple interceptions. It's normal. Marlon Humphreys picked him off quite a bit. He did say it was funny. He was like, "Yeah, well, Humphrey's hands weren't that great last season, so I'm just helping him out. Getting that training for him. I want to put him in a position to catch the ball." Um, there are some injuries. Kyle Van Noy had a minor neck injury. Wasn't given a timeline. I believe he's back at practice. But he was dealing with a minor tweak. And Tavon Mullen was carted off the field, I believe for a knee injury. So we're going to kind of see how all of that plays out, what they come back and say. Unfortunately, the Ravens are very sketchy when it comes to injuries. If they don't have to share, they won't. So there's no real timeline. We're just going to kind of see what comes. But yeah, um, there was a video of Lamar Jackson catching a pass. He ran a route. I found this interesting, not because he could do it. One, I don't think it helps you should be a wide receiver, so I prefer you didn't have those on the internet. I don't think that helps the opinion. You play quarterback, let's keep it that way. I find this interesting because I don't think they would put him in that position, but Derrick Henry has been known to take the shotgun.
And has known to throw
Um,
passes.
yeah. So I do think it adds maybe an element of the offense that has not been there in the
Yeah.
past. I don't think it's something you'll see actively. It is not Lamar's moving to wide receiver. He is not. He's a quarterback. But to see him run this route and do this
But as a
and
trick
catch an over
play,
the shoulder pass, I found it interesting with the addition of Henry, who we've seen done this. So
and it
yeah,
just opens up trick plays for the offense.
yeah.
So,
I didn't. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Ravens training camp. Going well. Um, you know, both Henry and Lamar have good things to say about each other and their time. I'm excited to see what it brings. We're still looking for development on the O line. I do think the secondary is becoming a little clearer with every day. So yeah, we'll just keep seeing the news as it comes. Hopefully, get updates on Van Noy and Tavon.
all right. Moving on to the Seahawks. Nothing really happened with the Seahawks. All the news for the Seahawks broke for our last episode. The only thing that really happened was they signed Marquise Blair back to the team. He was a second round draft pick in 2019. Was released from the team, and I believe 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. I don't really have a ton of the details, but so he was on the team for a little bit. He did not play at all last year in the NFL, so they re-signed him. McDonald said he had a pretty good workout, which is why they signed him. Had a good practice. They waived Jonathan Sunderland, a undrafted free agent rookie last year, to make room for Blair. Not overly surprising. Sutherland probably just doesn't fit what McDonald wants to do. He fit more of what Pete Carroll does with a Jamal Adams style, where he plays more in the box, more as a blitzer, more as a like linebacker type thing, which McDonald does do, but he just doesn't do it as often. And I think he already kind of has who he wants in that role. So waiving Sutherland is not a huge surprise, and that was just to make room for Blair, who will challenge for more of a traditional safety position and role. We'll see. They've talked a lot about what they're going to do. They've even mentioned maybe doing 8 people on a secondary at once as a like something, which I'm excited about. I like the idea of our defense being very changeable and with a lot of different sets. So having an 8 secondary package, 8 people in a secondary for a package would be awesome. That's just something else to throw at a defense. So if Blair helps them do that, then that's cool. I would not keep your hopes up if you like Blair. Not playing last year really hurt his chances, but we'll see. They signed him for a reason. Um, we'll talk pretty quickly about something that we might want to talk about more later. Geno Smith and Jaron Reed both did press conferences during the second day or third day of minicamp, I believe. Geno Smith, they were both asked the same question. Geno Smith was asked if he would consider wearing a Guardian cap, which is required to be worn during the training camp. The new NFL rules state that you can now wear them during the season. So he was asked if
Yeah.
he had put any thought into wearing one during the season. He did reply with he's heavily thinking and heavily leaning towards wearing one during the season. He thinks that as a quarterback, we've seen, for example, Tua Tagovailoa had those really bad concussions. So as a quarterback, it might not be the worst idea to protect yourself a little bit extra, take that extra bit of precaution, wear the guarding cap during the season to try to avoid concussions or major head injuries. So we'll see what comes of that. He might decide not to. He might decide to. I think we'll probably talk about it once the season starts and once we see who is wearing the Guardian caps, if anybody.
Yeah.
We still don't know. No one's really come out and have been like, I am
And
100.
officially decided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jaron Reed, the defensive tackle for the Seahawks, was asked the same question on if he thinks he would be wearing a Guardian cap, to which he replied he will not be. He was very um, certain of that
Yeah.
and went on to
Had
say,
strong opinions on
yeah,
that.
went on to say that he feels wearing the Guardian cap, period, is not the best idea. Um, he he just doesn't think wearing it during the season will be as much of a help as people think it will be. I would like to do a lot more research into it and find out, because the research has been done and it has shown that guardian caps during training camp have significantly reduced concussions during training camp. That is a fact that has been tested a lot. That is why they're required during training camp. I would want to see how that translates to in season. If we see a huge
Yeah.
reduction, or if really we don't. And I also want to see the difference between when we didn't have guardian caps during training camp and how the season went versus guardian camp to training camp to how the season went. Purely because I have the opinion of I think with the players wearing guardian caps, especially rookies, they learn that the guardian caps will protect them, so they go harder into tackles. They don't protect themselves as much.
Yeah.
Now, again, if they then choose to wear guardian caps during the game, that is available to them. So maybe that's a choice they make. But I also just would like to see more on the situation. I'll be very curious to see who does, who doesn't. I think we'll talk more about this in like real detail when we see who doesn't, and when we
Yeah.
start seeing more statistics and more scientific evidence to
In season.
how this is going to affect in season. Um,
Yeah.
but it's, I think, interesting to talk about considering that the rule has changed and we are starting to see some players thinking about doing it. Some players really don't like it. We'll see how the season goes with that. And that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, that's
And then I realized I misspoke, which I was pretty confident of, so I did double check. It was Trayvon's shoulder
okay.
that
Got it.
he fell on. No news for him or Kyle Van Noy yet. We'll just keep an eye on it. Obviously, safety paramount. It's why the Guardian cap is a conversation. I
Uh-huh.
do agree. I think it'll be interesting to see if anyone wears one in season. We had concerns last year when they were introduced into training camp. So to see them be allowed in game now,
We'll we'll see what comes of
and
it.
I think there has to be multiple rules on that. Like if it pops off, does that stop the game? I just have questions. Um, I don't think some of those will be answered until someone wears one in season.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something to keep an eye on during the season.
Yeah,
Just really quickly, there's been no injury news coming out of Seattle. So Abe Lucas is still battling back. I'm forgetting the other guy now. No one on our pup list is
yeah, I'm with
back
you.
other than the guys I named last week. Terrell Dotson and Jerome Baker are practicing like full, which is good to hear out of the linebackers, but no real injury news. McDonald and is a Raven again, sketchy motherfuckers. Has not been given a whole
Just
ton
they
of
won't say shit.
insight on the injury front, so
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye out. Other than that, that's it for Seahawks training camp. Nothing really happened in the last couple days. Um, I guess we'll see what the week brings. There's, I guess, one cool thing. There was a awesome diving catch from Jake Bobo, who is a fan favorite in Seattle. Um,
You
I'll
sent me
probably,
that video. It was
yep,
pretty chill.
I'll probably put up a little image of it if I can find one. Because it was a pretty solid catch,
Yeah.
but that was pretty much it out of Seattle.
Um, we're gonna move on. Just kind of get into the Olympics. We're gonna talk drama. Because unfortunately this Olympics has been fraught with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Starting with opening ceremony. Um, the videos and the posts of it have been rapidly taken down.
Yeah. Um,
They were trying to recreate something specific, which was kind of a portrayal of Dionysus. Um, I thought on it, I was mildly confused by that, and then it clicked kind of the wine connection. Okay, that's not how it
I
came
don't
off. That's not how it
know how.
appeared. And so it's created a lot of controversy and a lot of anger. Some tech companies have pulled out, some sponsors have pulled out due to
It's been
opening
a.
ceremonies. Here's my thing. Um, Opening ceremonies and the Olympics are supposed to be about unity,
Mm-hmm.
and they're supposed to be about culture. I was uncomfortable,
Yeah,
and I was confused.
I thought it was brought a little far.
Yeah. I love seeing what countries put together to represent themselves, because that's kind of the point. Is
Mhm.
as the hosting country, you get to show the world aspects of your culture and who you are, and then introduce the world and all of these teams and all of these athletes.
And bringing the world together for
Yeah.
a couple months or for a month.
I am unclear what part of the opening ceremonies was supposed to be French culture other than a beheaded Marie Antoinette. Uh, I was
Yeah,
confused.
I think
I I
the
think
most
we
they did was that boat ride. I think was
yeah,
interesting. I think that was probably the most interesting part, and I think that did show the culture because the boat ride was through the center of Paris,
yeah,
essentially, where you see the Louvre, you see the Eiffel Tower, you see these very
iconic.
important iconic buildings
Yeah,
in French culture. But that was pretty much it. And I'm gonna be honest, as a opening ceremony, in terms of just that part, I'm gonna ignore the
yeah,
situation for now. I felt this opening ceremony fell flat in that sense too.
yeah,
I think I think the opening ceremonies for me, the entering the stadium or the Coliseum or whatever you want to call it, I think that is a tradition for a reason. It
yeah.
allows you to truly see every country and who's participating for those countries and to really see them walk out together in line with the behind their flag together, and you can see the group on these
You
boats
could feel the magnitude of how
on
many or even how few there
yeah,
are.
which I think even how few has magnitude because that shows that these
Yeah,
few are representing their
they
whole
fought for
country.
their spot.
um so these boats, you could see the magnitude in a way, like when they had the countries with 5 participants, and when the United States showed up with their like shit ton of participants, you could see the difference, but it felt like no one was really standing together in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It didn't hold the same way. It still felt, and that's because they each country took a different boat, which I get, and each country does come out separately. It felt like division.
yeah, it
It
felt
it
separate.
still it didn't feel like this cohesive line. of,
The
yes, we are different countries, but we are one world.
yeah,
We are
of
one universe here
once
to accomplish the same goal.
because like when you're watching the original, like or how they used to do it, you would have so for example, Greece always leads because Greece invented the Olympics. So you'd
Mhm.
have Greece come out in their line, and you'd know they'd be following their flag proudly, as all countries do. And then right after the end of Greece, the next
Is
country
another
would
country.
be immediately behind them with their
Mhm.
flag following as a group. And there would not be this like break
And there
in
was a problem because, like we talk about the US, not all of the athletes were on the boat
yeah.
because they didn't all fit.
Hmm.
So I'm like, you've created a situation that I don't think achieves the goal it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And athletes are being left out of it, they're being left off of it. It just didn't have the impact that I think it's meant to.
Hmm.
I I saw this take. I'm gonna share it. It felt like this Olympics was this test.
Hmm.
Okay, we'll take the bar. I like the bar
Okay.
exam to get to be a lawyer. You spend 4 years in law school knowing the bar is coming and you're going to have to take it. You take all these classes and you do all these things and you do all this prep work to take the bar and then pass it. And it's like they went the night before and went, "Oh crap, I have this thing tomorrow." And I didn't really study and I didn't really plan, even though I know it's been coming.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this whole thing has felt.
Hmm.
We talked about the beds, we talked about the air conditioning. Like it's just been a problem. They're having food shortages within the village.
Yeah. There's
Like
just been issues across the
opening c-
board.
opening ceremonies kind of fell flat in terms of
Presence,
impact.
impact.
I felt like, with the exception of that boat ride and the horse showing you all of these iconic buildings and places, there was no homage to your history and to their culture. And then it got weird.
Hmm.
It got weird.
Yeah.
I If that is your representation of France as a culture, I'll probably not be going to your country. I like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all about pride and I'm all about being truthful, like this is who we are. We
Yeah.
accept these things. We are a unity-based country, but it felt very isolating
Part of that.
if you didn't resonate with part of that. I think you felt isolated.
Hmm.
Um I was uncomfortable. I thought it was too much. I understand that the main criticism or the thing that has angered people was not the intention, but that's how it came off. You're
Intention
supposed
doesn't
to be
matter.
uniting people. Yeah. You're supposed to be uniting people, not creating division. And then to cap it, you called a country by the wrong name.
And not just like
When
any country.
it's bad. It's
Like
from a political standpoint, it's bad. When South Korea was coming down the river and you announced them as North Korea,
that's a
that's
problem.
horrendous.
That's terrible.
The South Korean government is livid. They are two vastly different countries. They speak different languages,
They have
they have
vastly
different
different
flags,
cultures,
they're different cultures, they have different
opinions on world
on
views,
everything.
on
They are so drastically different. Now, yes, in Tokyo, they flew one flag. They decided to be one nation of Korea. But that is a choice those countries made.
hmm
to disrespect them, either one of them, no matter how you feel about these countries or their policies or their politics or whatever, that's not the point of the Olympics. To disrespect
Thank
them
you.
in that manner is so over the line, it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
I was horrified when they said it and I saw the flag. I was like, that is not who they are.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you could have called the USA Mexico, and I think we would have been just as ticked off, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
The fact that as the French government, you've already had to issue apologies for your opening ceremonies is insane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who planned this. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but this has not been good.
But it's been a shit show from the beginning.
Yeah. And I really hope and I think now the focus has been on the athletes
Mm-hmm.
because some incredible things have been done. But to start that way is insane. And I'm mildly terrified to see what closing ceremony is going to look like. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm a little scared.
Because here's the reason I'd be more scared is if you had a plan for the closing ceremonies that was any remotely near,
You have to scrap it.
you're scrapping it. And what's terrifying is you're scrapping it and then only have 2 weeks to figure out a new one.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be very bland, very boring, very just
Basic.
here. This is what we came up with in 2 weeks, or it'll be
We just kind of drive the nail home for all the offensive shit we did to start.
yeah. I'm hoping that they had a good plan to begin with, but based on opening ceremonies, which you would think is the more important thing to have really planned out, nailed out, and not politically or anything like that driven. It's just about unity, bringing these countries together, bringing the world together
Yeah.
over friendly competition, over that's why we love sports is the competition and the like afterwards there's probably a level of respect.
Yeah.
And the Olympics is one of the best at it because these athletes are all from all walks of life, all just so spread out, and they come together for these competitions and they get to meet each other, they get to talk, they get to interact, and it
They
brings
get
the
to
world
spend
closer.
real time together.
And it brings the world closer. And then you in these opening ceremonies, the whole opening ceremony for me just felt like every chance you got, you were creating some kind of divide. With the
Yeah.
boats, they were so spread out, so divided. With the athletes being left off the boats for some of them, that's your country's telling you that you're not good enough to be on our boat. You're not
Yeah.
good enough to be on here. You're getting left off. You then have the situation with that thing where
Yeah.
you've left a population of the world pissed off at you. You had other stuff where you have South Korea now pissed off at you for calling them the wrong country.
Like
Like,
I just do. I felt like at every chance of unity or inclusion,
mhm,
you pick the opposite.
division was created.
Like and that's not the point. Yes, the Olympics is this great athletic feat, but it is about unity. It's about cohesion. It's about for 2 weeks, the entire world is united for these competitions, no matter who you're rooting for. You're united. Because if your country's not in it, we were watching the other day. We were getting into archery. The US was
Yeah,
not,
yeah, no.
but
US is
we were
not
getting
challenging for that.
involved. We were rooting for people. We were excited to see
We were
these feats of athleticism. And at every point, you had the choice as France and as the hosting country to pick unity, and you picked division. And that's disappointing and it's heartbreaking because that's not the point. Or you made it political. That's not the point. I'm all about celebrating all walks of life. But pick the right way in the right moment. And make sure we're celebrating, not forcing it down people's throats.
Hmm.
Because to me that was not a celebration. That was not
Showing off that culture. That was not
that
showing
was not
off
something
that.
I within that culture or within that community could be proud of. Like there were ways you could have included that demographic. This was not it.
Mm,
This was not it. And you just did. You picked division at every opportunity, and that's not the point. That's not the point. You
mm,
ruin the spirit. You you tarnish it when that's what you do.
mhm,
I mean, again, when you think about 4 years ago, or I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was the Winter Olympics. Korea chose to fly one flag
mhm.
to be
Un-
cohesion
United.
and unified. And then they chose this year, hey, we are going to run separately because and I think they made that decision because of language barriers and things like that.
And they showed
But
this, and I think it did go a long way. But like at the same time, I think it's important to be identified as your own country because
yeah,
there's a
like
pride to your country,
be
and
like
you can
we are
disagree.
South Korea or we are North Korea, and we're proud of who we are. And to call them by the wrong name, I mean,
That's what are we doing?
how does that even happen? I've seen 300 plus graduates get called the right name at a high school graduation, at college
College.
graduations. How do you call a country at the most televised sporting event in the world the wrong name? I mean, how do you even mess that up? How do you what goes wrong in your planning that that's even a possibility? When I have watched seriously hundreds of people walk across a stage to be handed a fake diploma and get called the right name.
Yeah. It.
But you can't tell the difference between South Korea and North Korea? Did you not have the right card? Did you think it was we were going north to south? What happened?
I. It's one. It's a
And then
just.
your only response is we're really sorry.
Hmm.
You fucking better be.
That.
You just disrespected two countries. You disrespected both of them by doing this. You
Yeah.
didn't just disrespect South Korea. By doing this, and you're like, add it to the list of shit we've done wrong. We did. I did. I did.
And we'll get to more because there's more. There's more.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Is this is just opening. There's other stuff.
There was stuff before
Oh,
opening ceremonies. There's stuff after. There's stuff that probably hasn't even happened yet.
we're moving to soccer because that's kind of where the controversy takes us next.
Yeah.
The Go ahead, Brendan. As the
I,
soccer guy, tell us. Talk to
um.
us. What
So
happened?
soccer is played just for reference before. There are some games in soccer played before opening ceremonies. So most of this controversy happened before opening ceremonies, which makes opening ceremonies honestly look a little bit worse because you already have shit going wrong. Um, the Canadian women's soccer team, one of the better teams at the Olympics,
They were.
yeah, uh, has pretty much been eliminated. They have not been disqualified, but they've pretty much been eliminated. They were caught spying with a drone on the Australian women's national team. Spying with a drone. So they were caught, and the FIFA and Olympic Federation or Olympic Committee, I don't really know what they're called,
A minute.
have come out and has deducted them 6 points. They have taken 6 points away from Canada, which means Canada pretty much started the tournament on negative 6 points. For anyone wondering, the maximum number of points you can get from 0 in a stage they're in is 9. Canada would have to win all 3 games, giving them 3 points, and pray the other 3 teams in their group, 2 of them cannot have won a game and tied a game, essentially, for them to even progress. So, no, they have not technically been disqualified. They have not been eliminated, but they've essentially been eliminated. It would take a
Can't
monumental
win.
miracle. And for reference, their coach has been suspended for at least a year. They've been fined 200,000 Canadian dollars, and they've been deducted the 6 points. So that was all their punishment for spying, which I think
I think 3 or a few players
there's also I think
were
their
suspended.
captain. Their captain I think was suspended, and maybe another one. Not 100% sure on those details. We can find more later, but for a team to spy on another team, I think they should have just been disqualified right then and there. I understand
Yeah.
that's technically what happened, but I think you should not leave it up to chance that they make it. I think you should just be like, Canada's disqualified because the point we've been talking about the point of the Olympics this whole time being unity, togetherness, friendly, and fair competition. Canada has cheated. Canada has taken a chance to cheat and to get better than a team and taken it, and I think they should have been disqualified. Now, that's just the beginning of the controversy there,
I
but
guess I have a question. I have a
yes,
question.
yeah.
I don't disagree with your point at all. Um, how would that have messed up, I guess, their group? Because
That
then the third team goes, who do we how do they, you know what I mean? Then
see
I feel
that
like a third team then is
okay,
without the ability to make points
that's fair. So that is possibly the only reason to keep them. But then I think you should have made it clear. You should not have deducted them 6 points. You should have deducted them 9. You should have made it physically impossible
for them to
for
win. They're
for
just
them
there
to
for another team
progress.
to play.
Yeah, they're there for to play spoiler technically, but now no, they cannot advance. They cannot progress through the Olympics. They are out. There's technically a chance for them to go through. So I think you're right. I think that is why they're still part of it, is so that the group, their 4 team group,
Still has 4
still
teams.
has 4 teams, can still play normally. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Like,
That's crazy. It's crazy.
that they have a chance to go
It's
past where they were.
I do not understand cheating in the Olympics. I really don't.
That's yeah.
I really don't. I don't understand cheating in general. I really don't. But on an international scale, the whole world is watching. Security's tighter. Drug testing is way more active. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're there to play. You just said they're one of the better teams.
Mm-hmm.
Wh- Like, okay, the US wins a lot. Like, they're not like what are you doing? You're going to play them. Get that footage then. When you're playing, when you can see it. When you're trying to compete to win.
Yeah. It
Just compete. Put your athletes in the best situation possible. That does not mean cheating. Doing things that are going to get you disqualified. There are probably members of that team that did not know this was happening.
and
And
I
you have screwed their dream.
mm-hmm. And
And you have hurt them.
there are probably some that will never get this chance again. That will
No.
never get to. compete for a gold. That will
Especially when we've talked about the rules for soccer. You have to be under
so
'23.
women's
Oh,
soccer
yeah,
does not
women's is
follow
different.
that.
But, like, you may never get this chance again, and you've destroyed this team. For what? To hopefully, maybe,
Get
see how they run a practice
a slight
to
leg
get
up. What's worse is you could just watch film. They have
like,
it, so you
it's
can
out
watch
there.
game film legally. Watch game film.
So
What was the point of spying on a practice? It's a practice
and, okay, maybe there's no film. You tell me you couldn't have just watched Copa or Euros
or anything.
and
Anything.
see maybe how these teams do some things? Like, yeah, it's different play, but, like, come on. This is outrageous. This is crazy. This is
Yeah.
I'm horrified.
To continue on soccer controversy, because apparently that's the controversy we're gonna
That
have.
wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
That wasn't enough.
We're moving to the men's side. Once again, something that took place before opening ceremonies even started. The Argentinian under 23 men's team faced the Moroccan under 23 men's team, and during the game, there was some questionable decisions and some questionable things happened. Um, for context, Morocco, who is not a very strong team, was playing Argentina, who is widely considered a strong team. They just won Copa America. Now, granted, that was not their under 23 team, but if you think about it logically, if you're good, normally your under 23 team's probably also pretty good.
Yeah.
So Argentina's losing 2-0. That's not good for Argentina. Morocco's pulling off a miracle here. Argentina gets one back to make it 2-1. And for those of you that don't know, the way that soccer works is during a game, the clock does not stop. There is a half time, which the clock does stop after 45 minutes. We go to half. We take 15 minutes. Players get energized. There's stuff happening. But the clock stops then. The clock does not stop otherwise. It is a continuous clock counting up till 45, and then from 45 to 90. So the way the soccer works is if any stoppages happen, like a player gets hurt, goals are scored, stuff happens like that. There's like play is not going on. Time is added to the end of the game. So you'll see 90 minutes plus however much. The average for the end, and they do this for both half, the average for like the last 45 minutes is normally around 4 to 5 to 6 minutes. That's your like average amount of time. They added on 15 minutes of time. That's not normal. That's not something that normally happens. That is a rare case.
A
So,
lot of time.
yeah, that is a lot of time. That's 105 minutes of time. Very rare that happens in a normal game setting like this. So, the Argentinian team scores to tie the game in the 105th minute. So, 15 minutes after technically the game is supposed to end. Argentina scores, ties 2-2. We go to restart the game for kickoff, and Moroccan fans essentially riot. They're throwing bottles on the field. Some fans even rush the field, get on it. This causes the teams to go to the locker room. The Olympic Federation or the Olympic Committee, the teams are worried for player safety. Rightly so. You don't want team players getting hurt in this kind of
Yeah.
competition. It would be terrible. So teams go to the locker room. They're chilling there while the security and everyone takes care of the situation that Morocco has put ourselves in. During this time, the goal goes to video review. They're allowed to do that in soccer. The goal was deemed to be offside, should not have counted. They made the decision during the game because a 2-hour delay does not count as out of the game,
Yeah.
essentially. So they made a decision during the game that the goal should not have counted. So the players come back onto the field, warm up after this 2 hour delay. We restart where the play had ended because of the offside, and the game ends. Argentina is the ones. So the game ends 2-1 in favor of Morocco. Morocco wins, which is huge. A win versus a tie or loss is huge. A win is 2 points, a tie is 1 point, a loss is zero. Or no, a win is three. I'm sorry. A win is three, a loss is one, a tie is zero. Teams pretty much need to win games. Losses put you in a really bad position for these like group stage events. So Argentina is not happy that the goal was called offside during this lengthy delay that was caused by Moroccan fans essentially rioting.
Mhm.
Now, I agree. The goal should not have counted. But I do not think we should sit here and change the game not during play, because technically the game was over when they made the decision. They had ended the game because of the rioting happening, because of what was
Yeah.
happening. They should not be able to go back, retroactively change the game because of this. So Argentina is not happy, rightly so, I feel like. And that was pretty much it. So there's a riot happened. Argentina was screwed out of a tie, which is huge, and Morocco won. That is.
I I do not think I have enough soccer knowledge. I'm working on it. But to seriously comment one way or another. What I do know is in other sports, NFL specifically, if say the Ravens and the Seahawks are playing, okay, and someone tackles Lamar Jackson, and Ravens fans storm the field. The Ravens are penalized for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do think is as Morocco fans storm the field and create this situation, I kind of think the punishment should have been, well, we would have disallowed this goal if you'd chilled the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've put us in a position of we have to deal with security. We have to deal with all these things. We have to evacuate the players.
The
So the
game,
game's going to end here, and it's 2-2. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, to me, that's the punishment. Because had fans just calmed down, they would have, the goal went to video review regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would have happened anyway. But you didn't give time. You probably stormed the field because it was offsides.
Yeah.
And then that was going to happen anyway. So for me, as a sports fan, trying to get more into soccer and learn more about this sport, to me, that's the punishment. Is if you'd calmed down, we would have dealt with this. In the moment, we called goal. We go back and look at it, but you've created a hostile environment. You've put players at risk. You've put staff at risk. This is the punishment for that.
Yeah.
Is now, because I do agree that I do not think a game should be adjusted outside of gameplay.
Yeah.
And because technically we were going to restart, it's still I disagree with that. So I do think I think it should have been a we were gonna review it. We did determine it was offsides. Bummer. Next time don't storm the field so we can take care of this.
Yeah. It's just another thing
But
that is going
to
wrong.
have Fans, that's crazy.
Like, fans
Look,
stormed the
I
field.
love sports. I love sports. But there are things that fans do that I'm like, what in God's hell is happening? You would think your life depended on,
Morocco winning that game. Just for the
yeah. And just so we're clear, they really don't care about you. Like every team and organization, they try to support their fans, but at the end of the day, they're gonna make their money and they're gonna play their game, with or without you. That's crazy. That's crazy.
and the other thing is, like, this is just another thing on the Olympics, like,
Yeah, it's
check
just
mark
not
of not going well. One, you let fans rush a field
storm the field.
and throw bottles and cause this level of disruption with very minimal punishment, it sounds like.
You rewarded them for it.
Yeah. Two, well, I'm pretty sure most of those fans were banned, but I mean, like, what
Well,
are we
like
doing? You rewarded
like
the team.
with taking the goal back, you reward the fan. You go, yeah, we got what we wanted. No, what? No, no, that's not how it works.
Two, you have now shown the power to affect a game outside of the game.
Yeah,
You've taken away the meaning of the competition when you can decide the winner outside of the game.
yeah,
So those are two things for me that are just adding to the this Olympics is not going well
it's not going
to an
great.
extent.
Not going great.
There's one
Um.
more level of controversy that I'll let Dallas do, because there was that one thing with teams now have been
Oh.
warned and people.
So I want to do this very delicately.
Yeah.
I want to say this very delicately. Um. Because I do not want to have to add warnings to our videos.
No.
We have talked about extensively. This is about unity.
Hmm.
And as a country, we should be welcoming to the people that are competing or are here to support competitors.
Hmm.
That is just how it should be. We There should not be hate involved in the Olympics. Okay? I can dislike a team, I can be like, "Hey, I'm rooting for the US." There's no hate. For Because of actions taken by French citizens towards non-French citizens during these games, teams and patrons have been advised to not wear out of country gear
Yeah.
to advertise that they are from another country for concern for their safety.
Hmm.
That is disgusting. That is disgusting. I understand that in the US and in other countries, hate happens. Racism and judgment and those things occur. And that is wrong on every level. I do not think our response to this
Is
should be don't wear the gear.
no.
The response to this should be if you assault somebody, it is a crime and we will punish you to the fullest extent of our law.
Hmm.
And I think at the Olympics, it should be to international law.
Yeah. Depending on it, should honestly. So this could be
It should maybe be up
dicey.
to the country
Yeah.
that was assaulted
That was my. It could get dicey, but it should be a joint
because of
of.
how do we deal with this to show that we are united. We do not think this was right. We do not think this was acceptable, and we are going to deal with this. And this, if this happens again, understand that you will be held responsible. We as a country should not go, well, maybe don't announce that you're from another country. What the hell is the matter with you? What the hell is the matter with you? Okay. It is not about, just so we're super clear, I'm saying this as a woman. It is not about what you're wearing, what you did or did not say, how much you did or did not have to drink. None of that matters. If you are assaulted, they are in the wrong. And as the host country, you should deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Not turn around and go, hey, everybody, maybe don't announce that you're a foreigner. Excuse me?
Just
You're France. You're one of the largest tourist countries in the world. And now you're telling people this is how we're going to respond to this?
mm-hmm.
This is how we're going to try and mitigate this problem? That's disgusting. You're wrong. And I am disappointed further by how you as a country have chosen to represent yourself in this world event.
Yeah.
Is you have once again been given the opportunity to pick unity, to pick justice, to pick what's right, and you have done the opposite. You are wrong. And I am truly sorry. I am truly sorry to anybody that did not feel safe or has been put in a situation where they are not safe, or they are not welcome at these Olympic Games, because that is not what this is about. There should not be a safer place in the world than where the Olympics are being held, because the only concern and the only goal should be cohesion. And if you felt unsafe, if you felt targeted, if you were attacked in any way, I am truly sorry, because that is wrong, and it's disgusting. And I cannot believe how France has handled these things.
The French government should be pretty much ashamed from themselves how they've handled most of this Olympics.
Yeah.
It's been a shit show of just complete and utter proportions in terms of how we've divided the world, how we've
Yeah.
divided people. I'm not going to say that China, that Russia, the people that held the Olympics beforehand didn't have problems, okay?
Yeah.
And if we look at those countries, they have problems within those countries. We hear about it, stuff is happening. However you lean in politics, stuff happens.
You have
Okay?
an opinion.
Those countries, when the Olympics were there, did a pretty good job of putting politics aside and saying, we're here for the Olympics.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about what's happening. We're just going
Or
to
what
be
may have happened.
we're just going to be
We just
here. We're going to have the Olympics and we're all going to come together
yeah.
for that. France right now is doing a terrible job.
Which is crazy as a country, you mentioned China and Russia who come up in these controversial conversations. France typically does not.
Yeah.
So how are you now part of the controversy? You're creating it. It's not like, hey, we've had these views or we've done these things or whatever, and the Olympics are being held here, so maybe we address it a little bit. We're about the Olympics. Instead, we went, oh, it's France. Oh, we shouldn't. We won't have these issues. So you went out of your way to create them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why? Why couldn't? Why can't we get along for 2 weeks?
But
Again, at every opportunity you had. Because that's the thing that gets me. It's not like this came up or this was a thing before the Olympics started. And people were like, well, maybe we'll have to pick a side or maybe this will come up or whatever. It went, Olympics started. Hey, by the way, we're gonna create all these problems.
Yeah, it's
Let's see how that goes. Not well.
it's been just I kind of feel for the athletes, and it's been a
Oh yeah,
disappointing Olympics as a whole. I think I shouldn't say that. The athletes have been doing their best, and there has
yeah,
been some incredible things that have happened. We've seen records broken. We've seen countries get medals and stuff they've never got medals. We've seen countries get certain medals they've never gotten. We've seen things that we haven't seen in a long time in terms of the
yeah.
athletes. But France is taking so much away from that with the issues they are having putting
Hmm.
on the Olympics.
Yeah,
That is the issue, is people are not focusing on what the athletes are doing.
yeah.
People are
We're focused on the drama and the controversies,
and the issues France is having. And it's just not fair
and
to these athletes that
that's
are
the point.
it's not fair to these athletes that are living their dream, and some of them have genuinely lived it. Some of them are getting gold medals in their respective sport
Yeah,
and are living their absolute dream, and all they hear about is not that they won the gold, but that France and the Olympics has had problem after problem, and the situations that the athletes are put in, and the situations that the world's being put in,
yeah.
it's just not fair to them. It's not.
No, I agree. You know, the conversation today for us should have been about medals and athletic feats. And it's not. It's not. You know, we hope to get there next week, but the drama has has overshadowed a lot of this, and it shouldn't have.
And
There was no reason for it.
I would say we are part of the problem, but at the same time, we're just trying to bring you what's happening. And
Yeah, like
I
I don't want to justify anything they've done, but we promised to talk all things sports. And unfortunately, this is part of it. I promise you, if Ravens fans rush the Steelers field, we're going to talk about it. And
it
I will not praise Ravens. I'll be like, I did not stand with you in this moment. I don't care how
no
bad the call, how wrong the call was. This was not
no
okay. Like that we're going to talk about it. So yeah, that
um,
has been
hopefully
the drama. That's hopefully next week is really all about the athletes.
we're gonna try to
Um
focus a lot on the athletes,
yeah,
unless something else extreme
seriously crazy happens.
happens. It should all be about the athletes.
This week I think we were kind of at a disadvantage because yes, some things have happened, but we didn't have like a when so much is going on, it's only so much time in a
Yeah,
video.
we we were trying to king. Please like and subscribe to the Flock Next YouTube channel. Um, and thank you.
Yep.
Anything you'd
I
like
am
to
your
say?
other host, and yeah, come back and see us next week.